Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is a very warm morning. I just came from outside, came from inside an very air conditioning house. Extremely cold inside, and I am not a cold person. I am very grateful for my air conditioner, but I gotta come outside and thaw out and then get my sweat on. So I have my sweater on. It's gonna come off right away as soon as I stand here for a few minutes. Hi, friends. So walk with me, walk with me. Let's see, I'm gonna grab my glasses real quick here. Just help me when the sun is in my eyes. And yeah, so my arms are a little sore this morning because I did grab the weed whacker, which is a man-sized weed whacker. Definitely not made for a 5'2" small woman. They are heavy. This is the kind, of course, it's not gas, it's electric. And I don't know, I've weed whacked with the gas before. I feel like they weren't as heavy as the ones, the electric ones. Hello. I don't know if I lost you just for a second. It just kind of like, I don't know, blinked. So good morning, and come walk with me. So yeah, I've used the gas-powered weed whackers before, and they were, to me, lightweight compared to the battery-powered ones. And then I've used the plug-in kind. Oh, there goes a little bunny rabbit. Little bunny. I would think bunnies would be in heaven because of all the green grass. All the vegetation around here for all the little vegetarian animals, right? So anyways, yes, my arms are a little sore from weed whacking. So my hubby came down here and weed whacked a little more after I used up all the battery in the weed whacker, a little bit in the front while he was on the rotting mower. And he got her done, boy. Mowing is like, it's an art around here. It's a regular thing around here. So, I mean, it's almost like every other day, or every day. I feel like it gets a 5 o'clock shadow. Yeah, so, it's just so beautiful, and I love every bit of it. So, yeah, forearms are a little sore. Now, I have been kind of going down it to everybody. I'm like, when I start out, are you there? So when I start out with my walks, I usually, bend down, stretch my hamstrings, touch, I kind of spread my feet out, maybe a couple feet, and I touch my toes, right? Stretch. You can do it however you want to, but this is simple and basic. And then I do a few like squats, and you don't want to like really lean into your knees because you want to save your knees. And so I just kind of like I'm sitting in a chair. So I squat and then up, and then do that a few times. I stretch my arms out. I bring them behind, both of them together, and then just stretch them out. Sometimes I'll get the towel when I get out of the shower, and I bring it one over my shoulder and then back here, and then just pull it. And I learned that a long time ago from a gal. She was one of our instructors in cosmetology school. And she would have us kind of do like we would do jumping jacks and stretches and all kinds of stuff. I think it was just to wake us up because, we had our classroom time in the mornings, and we were all still waking up, and she'd have us like stretch it out, and man, it was so good. And she was older. She was probably my age then, my age now, and God, then I was in my 20s. So it was like she always did that, and I was like, and she walked every day. I started walking a long time ago. I'm gonna say in the 90s. I think I really started walking when I was, might have been, I mean, I always loved to walk, but I think really like when I started feeling benefits and just was like out there going, wow, there's something to this. I'm pretty sure it was right after I had my daughter, and she was born in 90, right? So, you know, from there, I learned the benefit of the main benefit for me, and everybody's got their little story, and everybody's got their own little journey with walking. But the main thing for me, and I ran a little bit, and I'm not gonna say, well, I slow jogged. It was almost like a really fast walk. I slow jogged, and I've never been able to be a runner. You know, I can breathe. I don't know. I think you just need you need the lung capacity or whatever if you're a runner, and I don't feel like I've ever had that. I think just because I've always had like a touch of asthma, and so the benefits for me were just being able to handle stress. And when I say stress, I'm not talking, you know, oh, what am I going to make for dinner? Oh, you know, I got to pick my kids up from school, you know, and I got to do all these things, and I have so many errands to run, and I don't know if I can get it all done in one day. Not that stress. That's like normal everyday stress. Okay, I'm not saying that can't get out of control. Mine was just, I think, going through having, you know, a baby at a young age. I mean, I wasn't a teen mom, but, you know, we were young. So I was 22, and it was scary, you know, and I lived somewhere where I wasn't near any family. I'm going to tie this around my waist. I wasn't around any family, you know, and so I just learned that I just got out and would walk and push my baby in the stroller, and that helped me, you know, get through that kind of stress, or that kind of, you know, just mental, you know, thing that I needed a little extra help with, right? And I felt so good, and I love being out with nature. I always have. And so that helped. And then, you know, fast forward, it was like, you know, just different stuff that goes on, you know, the loss of a loved one, somebody's sick, somebody has cancer. You know, when the kids' dad, so part of my journey was when the kids' dad, when we found out that he had cancer, it was like a bomb was dropped on us, because it's like, what? You know, and when you're in your 20s, you're super young, you know that can happen to other people, but it doesn't happen to you, right? And so here we are young, you know, and so that was another, I'm wrapping my sweater around me. So that was another way for me to learn how to get through whatever the process of the stress, or the process of the tragedy, or the, you know, the bad news, or the loss, you know, and gotta go down in here real quick, trying to figure out how to prop my phone up. And so it's all right. I'm gonna try to tie my sweater around my waist without setting the phone down. I think I can do it. I remember back on the days when I would ride horses with my mom. We would go, you know, we would just go exercise our horses, and take them out to this to the riverbeds. And when we lived in Southern California, it was after my parents divorced, and she picked up, because at that point, when they were married, we had like a mid-sized pony, and then he was pretty old anyways, and then so Grandpa took him back home and let him, you know, live out his last days on Grandpa's ranch, you know. And so then she ended up picking up a young horse that was just broke, and she'd say, come on, we got to ride her every day, and she'd get on her horse and put me on this young horse. And she was a very chill young horse, but she would have to get off her horse to like maybe, you know, tighten the cinch on my horse, right? She'd tighten the cinch up because I was pretty little, so it was like climbing a tree for me to get up on that horse. So she'd say, I got her, you know, and she'd have to tighten the cinch, or maybe she would, something on the bridle would break and she would rig it back together. And we always had all the things, right, in our saddlebags, like either wire cutters or a hole, you know, leather puncher, and stuff. And so here I am tying, you know, trying to tie my my sweater around my waist with one hand, and I'm thinking, shoot, my mom would get that done with one hand, you know. But she was holding 2 horses and then, you know, taking care of all kinds of, you know, multiple things at one time. It's like, you know, simple little things you think, oh my gosh, you know, that's not a big deal. It is. It takes talent. Yeah, some of the things, oh gosh, I got stories. So anyhow, look at how pretty. Hi, Miss Chloe. So pretty over here. I walked in the front. So I'm the back part of our property right now. The little road that goes in the back part, and then there's another road in the front where our house is. So I walked down there this morning, but there was the first thing that caught my eye was, okay, there was like, I don't know, something was going on. I think they were loading cattle in the cattle truck. And then I thought, okay, I'll just walk past that, not a big deal, right? Well, then I see all these dogs out there, and I see a lot of dogs, and they don't bother me typically, you know, because I'll just walk right past them and stuff, and dogs typically don't bother me. I feel like they'll leave you alone if you just ignore them and you just walk like they're not there. But this one particular female, she doesn't have a collar. The rest of them have collars, but I noticed this one brown dog. She comes on my property, and I'm one of those because I don't have a garbage disposal in this old house that we're renting. So I keep all the trimmings off of all my vegetables and stuff. And any leftover food in my refrigerator, I'm always, you know, just cleaning out the refrigerator because I always have leftovers because, you know, I cook. And whatever needs to be thrown out, you know, science projects, things like that. And I take it out to the back area of the house and I toss it along the fence line. And I know that there's going to be, you know, dogs blowing through our property all the time, so, or whatever. Could be fox and coyotes. I've seen fox and raccoons and possum. And they blow through, and I think, well, that's okay. You know, they can eat that, and because I love the wildlife, and it's at, you know, it's like it's not like I'm trying to make friends with them at all. So I throw it out there because I know it's going to get eaten, and it's a better way for me to get rid of it instead of, you know, I don't want to put it in my trash, you know. So she came in, so that female dog, I saw her yesterday, and I had just finished weed whacking. There's tons of weed whacking, so yeah, I'm talking about weed whacking quite a bit because my arms are kind of sore from doing what I was doing. And it's a heavy duty man-sized weed whacker, right? I'm 5'2", and you know, it's like, it's heavy. So, but anyhow, I go in, and here she comes. And I'm like, hey, baby. And I'm like talking to her, and she does not look at me. She doesn't wag her tail. The other dogs wag their tails. They'll look at me, or they'll tuck their tail and, oh my gosh, we got, you know, found out, and they'll run off. But this one, she doesn't do any of that. Now, that kind of dog, you know, when it's a stray dog or something, you know, doesn't belong to you, and maybe doesn't belong to your neighbor, you think, yeah, that type of dog, in my experience, I'm not even going to try. And so I didn't want to be out there. And so I'm watching her through my door, through my window. And she got what she wanted, and then she took off. And then I went back to weed whacking. And so she didn't come around. But I know I've been outside with her coming out, because I've seen her kind of, it's almost like she avoids me. So, but if I go to talk to her, you know, she'll look at me for a moment, but she doesn't wag her tail. There's no indication on, you know, at all that she's friendly. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to even try. So I don't know. She's probably a long time stray dog, because like I said, no collar. The other dogs always have collars. So it's a little scary. So yeah, having walking, you know, on these roads, and then you run into, you know, these dogs just blowing through all the properties around here. Anywho, so yeah, mental focus. This it's like, how do you stay focused, you know, when you're busy? You know, life is busy. How do you stay focused? You know, are you able to go for a walk? I'm a walker. I'm not a gym person. I never have been. I have belonged to a gym before. I like, you know, I like doing the weights and those machines where you can just, you know, work your upper body, the part, well, you know, being a hairdresser all these years, you know, your arms are up. And I remember the doctor telling me, and the chiropractor saying, you need to, you know, get yourself out of that stance and relax your shoulders. And, you know, you can get massages and stuff, and it works out, you know, maybe the soreness, you know, from always being kind of hunched. And so I've been mindful of that, you know. So I'm not doing the, you know, standing behind the chair 24/7 anymore like I used to. I moved into a different space now, you know, so I can sit now and wash people's hair, and I cut people's hair, and I highlight people's hair. But it's like, there's a mixture of sitting, and so it's good. So my arms aren't like, you know, that anymore. And you know, women don't have upper body strength like men do, right? We have to work it. And so for those kinks, to work those kinks out, I had a gym membership. And the cool thing about this gym in my hometown is it had these big windows, and you can be on one of those machines working your upper body, and I can look right out the window and see horses and goats and sheep. It was like this little mini farm was, you know, and they had pastures of animals, you know. And so it was neat where the gym was, where their property was, you know, and I got to see that. So to me, it was almost like in my mind, I was telling myself, okay, I'm out in nature, even though I'm not out in nature, because mentally for me, I need to be out in the fresh air. Like, I need to be able to breathe the fresh air. Right now, the air does not feel very fresh. It feels a little, I'm going to say moist. I know we're going to get rain. I heard something about the news lady saying rain. And I was doing the dishes when I had the news on. Tony has the news on for about probably 30 minutes before he leaves for work. And I got up, and we like to, you know, have our coffee and stuff together or whatever, and read, you know, our time with God earlier in the morning. He gets up a couple hours before he goes to work. And I used to do that because we kind of had the same schedule. But I get up, and it's like 5:30. And yeah, I heard the news lady say something about the rain coming in and stuff. So I could feel it. You can smell it. And the air's a little different. I'm still learning and getting to know what to watch for. And I think, you know, when people go, oh my gosh, you were walking at that time, and oh my gosh, didn't you get rained on? It's like, yeah, I've been rained on, but you know, I'm not gonna melt. Right? And it's not like it's cold, so I'm good. because I am not a I'm not a cold weather person. I am a, you know, hot weather, more of a hot weather person, meaning I would rather, and I do better sweating than I do being cold. So, you know, I think the extremes are hard on anybody, but if I were to choose the two, it would be the heat. So, but yeah, mental focus, this helps me, you know, just be able to think about, you know, my day, or chill out in my mind, you know, on stuff that maybe's been bothering me, or, you know, prayer, you know, just thinking about others that need prayer, or people in your lives that, who you love, you know, that are very much, you know, they're sick or have something going on, and whatever it is, it's like you don't realize you take it on, you know, you really take it on. And how do you release it out of your brain, you know? And it's on a healthy note, you know, just for me, getting out and just walking it off. And I know the military, you know, is like that. It's like people that have been in that structure in the military. I'm pretty sure if you were to ask any of them, you know, about boot camp and, you know, doing their PT and that kind of thing, it's like once you get over that hump of this is so hard, but now your body's getting used to it. Now you're over that hump, right? Because you're getting used to it. Doesn't mean it makes it easier, but now you're used to it. Your body's used to it. So it's like a coping mechanism. And it's amazing the benefits. So, what's your day looking like today? I would love to hear from y'all. You know, the other day I had a bunch of comments, like maybe a few hours later after I did my morning walk. And it's been requested, and I love that because, I mean, I'm nobody special, right? I'm just me. And I like to, you know, I've done lives before showing people just how beautiful the desert was and how I had to get out super early. And I started doing those lives because I joined a group, and the ladies were doing it, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna do this, you know. And I hated doing, you know, nobody wants to, you know, have this going on. Good morning. And I might not be able to see if you're commenting right away, but I'll look at my comments after I'm done walking. So thank you for jumping on the live. But anyways, it was empowering, you know, having inspired somebody that said, hey, I've been going through this thing, and oh my gosh, or had knee surgery, and I'm supposed to walk, and it's just so hard to get motivated, and you've helped motivate me. It's like, get on, turn on your phone, turn on your live. You know, you go into on your page, and you just go on like you're going to make a comment, right? You're going to make a post, and then you just push the live. And the bells and whistles have changed a lot because I stopped doing lives about 5 years ago, and then started back up, you know. And it's not that I stopped walking. I've reduced the amount of walking just because of my work schedule, life changes and stuff. Some of you know that I worked at Kroger for 2 years, and when I first moved to Tennessee full time, so I got a job with Kroger and the grocery store. Some of you know it is Fry's. Some people say it's Smith's in other areas, and maybe a couple other names that I can't remember. But anyhow, and I was doing that because it was a regular paycheck, because I had saved. I had enough to move into, rent a little house in Gallatin, and saved. And you know, when you're been doing hair, been self-employed, you can't take your clients with you when you move out of state, right? So I just, you know, cleaned houses, and, you know, I would cut hair on the side, like maybe at their house and stuff like that, because a lot of people want to know. And you know what, I'm here to tell you, because if you know, if you're maybe in that predicament, you find yourself in a way, in a bad way, or maybe just, you know, I don't like to call anything, you know, like that was not a bad situation for me, but it was a way for me to make a living. It wasn't, doing that was not real steady income, so I needed a steady paycheck. So went to the grocery store. So I would definitely recommend that to anybody that needed a steady paycheck. They always need help at grocery stores, and you can move up the pay scale real easy. You just got to show up for your shift. And so, but yeah, and that was not something that I was making a career out of. And so for me, personally, it just, I knew, hi baby, it's okay. And Doggy's on his cable. Hi baby, it's okay. Yeah. Hi baby. Good morning. So I would, you know, tell people when at work, like, yeah, I do hair, not just cut hair. I highlight. My specialties are highlight and low lights with foil. You know, I color. I love color. I don't do all the things anymore. You know, I used to, but in my younger years, being a hairdresser, I used to do everything that my cosmetology license covered. But now I specialize, and I turned my fabulous, you know, skill of shampooing somebody's head that everybody loved, and they'd say, oh my gosh, I love the way you shampoo my head, and it feels so good, and you're just massaging and scrubbing my head, and, you know, come home with me, you know, that kind of thing. I'd be like, I know, I want my hair shampooed like that. That's why I would do that, because I loved the way it felt. And you know, and so I finally said, you know, I want to do one of those. I want to do a lay down situation where you can lay down and get your hair shampooed, and then, you know, I realized it was a thing, and I think Japan, it might have started in Japan, because they call it Japanese head spas, you know, and then when you look that up, you'll see, you know, the little oscillator that goes over. But that's just a way to rinse your hair, and it coming down, kind of, it is a little bit of a massage. It feels like that. But I thought, oh my gosh, that's a real thing. Like, here I am thinking about it, had no idea that service even existed. And then I realized what they do is something a little different. Like, some of them will just, you know, you're going to get, like, they're going to mix up avocado and all the things, and cucumber and egg whites, and put a mask on you while you're laying there and you're getting your hair washed. And, you know, they're going to do all these natural things for your skin, and they're going to massage your neck and give you a massage. Maybe you're, you know, maybe not a full body massage, but sometimes, but they do the whole thing head to toe. So, or now they have places too, and everybody just makes it their own. And I think it's really cool, because here I hold this license, and I can make my business what I want to make it. And so, yeah, so I threw in, okay, I'm going to do my highlights and color and my haircuts and style your hair, but this is how you're going to when you come to see me, you're going to lay down to get your head washed. So, and it's introducing that to people that maybe don't know that, you know, it's like, what? People are like, that's a thing? And it's like, yeah, come and see me. So they'll walk in and say, well, where do you do hair? You know, because they see the table, and then they see the shampoo bowl that is attached to the table, and then they see my little saddle chair that I get to sit in, and they see all my essential oils, and I'm like, yes, I'm a doTERRA distributor and I have essential oils. And why am I a distributor? Because I love the oils, and you know, you get a discount when you sign up. So I'm like, I want the oils, and I'm going to do that on my clients, put it on my client's scalp. And all of them are good for your hair, skin, and nails, right? Because it's your hair, skin, and nails are all made out of the same thing. So they'll be like, is there just one that's, you know, that you can use on this and that? And it's like, yeah, there are different concentrates and different recipes that you can make that can focus on, you know, one particular area. But anyways, I go with the smell, and I go with, you know, certain healing properties that maybe it'll say, like if somebody comes in and they're stopped up, you know, and they'll say, oh gosh, my sinuses are so tight, or yeah, I've got allergies so bad that now I've got a cold, and or I feel like I have a cold, but I don't know, I think it's, you know, a head cold or whatever. Well, a lot of times I just rub that stuff on their scalp and their head and just their ears and their neck and their shoulders, their arms and their hands. Rubbing, I'm not a massage therapist, so I rub into their hands. I'll rub into their feet. And and they'll say, oh my gosh, I can breathe better. And it takes a little time. It's not instantaneous. Sometimes it is, but for the most part, most people are like, gosh, I can breathe better. Or they feel more relaxed. You know, you come in and you have a tension headache. You just know. I don't know you have a tension headache. You know that. And you'll know, you'll call it a tension headache. Okay, now, I don't know if this is a dog walking down the road, but it sure is scary. Oh, Lord have mercy. Yep. Sometimes, I mean, they're big guardian dogs. Way down. It's like, go home. I keep saying I need to get one of those little small animal prods. It's like a hot shot. And just pushing the button and them hearing that zzz, it almost has this where you almost have to have just the ears of a dog to hear it. As soon as you push that, you don't even have to have contact with them. They scatter. They're like, peace out, we're out of here. I've had one before living in the mountains in Tehachapi, and because I would hike all over the mountains there, but I had my dogs with me too, so most of the time if there was a stray, nothing was going to come near me, because my German Shepherd was like, he was a force to be reckoned with. So okay, so those animals just went the other way. Really want to go down this road. I think I'm just gonna circle around. We're just gonna circle around. Just stand here for a moment just to see. So this road that I'm on, it's so cool. It's tucked in the back. I call it tucked back in the holler. I mean, a lot of these little roads lead you down into a holler, and this is Ditch Creek. So, never been bit, and I don't plan on getting bit, so I'm going to stay my cautious self. Anyway, yeah, so I had one, and that cattle, it was not a cattle prod, but it was like a small animal prod, like a sheep, you know, for herding and stuff like that. And usually, honestly, never had to use the contact part of it, right? It was just pushing that button and having that sound made the animals just, whoo, they're like, we're not going anywhere near her. Even my dogs would steer clear of me. They would be like ahead, or they would be out sniffing and climbing the mountains and stuff, but they would be right there if something happened, you know, if another animal came towards me or something. Boy, they would be right there. Just little things that you have to think about when you're out by yourself. Doesn't matter if you're up in the mountains or just walking the streets around your house. But anyways, I'm already feeling better just getting out and walking. It's been, like I said, so I moved from, gave up my grocery store job so I can give my little business. I started my little business, and I was trying to do both, but by the time I'd get home, I was just, and then somebody wants a evening appointment. I had already got up at 4 in the morning to do my morning job, right? And you're just, the driving and everything, it just zapped me, zapped my energy. So you know, here I am going, okay, cool, we're gonna eat an early dinner. You know, I don't like to go to bed right after eating. I don't like to eat late at night. I'm not saying that I'm not perfect at that, but most of the time, if I'm gonna cook something, I'm thinking about it after lunchtime, like, what am I gonna make for dinner? And then dinner's usually made by 4 or 5, right? I'm not gonna eat at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And then go to bed, right? I mean, I'm in bed by that time anyway, so getting up super early. So I had the balance, I was trying to find a balance, and so for me it was like, I got to give something up. And so we all know what we got to do. And I used to have so many irons in the fire, and boy, I would burn my candle at both ends and really had nothing left. And what do they say? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And I knew better, because I've read that, and you know, it goes in your head and you're thinking, okay, I do not want to be that person that is, I'm going to just keep doing the same thing, thinking, okay, something's going to give, something's going to give. So I was like, okay, I finally, and it could be a little bit of my codependent, I have a little bit of a codependent tendency that I, probably more than a little bit, but I'm working through that through CR ministry, that I wanted to please everybody, people pleaser. I wanted everybody to be happy with me, and I just like peace and harmony. I wanted to please my manager at the store too, and I just didn't want to let her down, but I knew she had enough, I have to say. With that said, she had enough people that she was training that could do what I was doing, and I knew she'd be fine. And they're always, it's like rotating. They have so many people for different shifts and then backup. So, but part of me, even though, you know, that's the grocery store and people go, why does it matter? Why did you care that much? Because I'm used to working my own business. I did that too at a young age. I worked for the grocery store at a young age. And I have to say, when I was 18, and it was for the health insurance. So when I had my kids, I had the health insurance. There was a time when their dad had health insurance too. But I think I had the carrier of health insurance before he did, because he was working for his family, the fencing business. And so I had that. And I had psoriasis, or I didn't know what it was, eczema or something. And it was pretty bad. Like it was irritated. It came from behind my ears and it was down on my neck. And I'm sure a lot of that was probably stress, because, you know, I was a young woman that moved out. I mean, I moved out at 16 and lived with my grandparents for a little bit, and then I lived with one of my friends. And I wasn't like living with my friend, like her parents just knew I was staying the night, but I had like a suitcase and was there all the time. And it was one of those situations where, hi baby, passing back by that dog. He's just looking at me, laying by his little doghouse. So it was, you know, one of those situations, and, you know, and then trying to finish school, and, you know, so it was just being young and having lots of responsibility. You know, I had an uncle that my dad had, it was one of my dad's brothers, came from 8. And he had reached out because his daughter, my cousin, she was, I think, a few years older than me, and she had psoriasis. And she had, so some of her experience, my uncle reached out and said, hey, this is what her doctor put her on. So, and he inspired me to go, because I was working under the table for a company, taking the telephone payments, remember Pac Bell, and taking telephone payments and the electric bill. You know, sometimes you can go to those little payment centers and pay your electric bill or gas bill or whatever. And so I did that, and it was under the table, but it was pretty good money. But I knew, you know, and that was really good money, because it's like no taxes were taken out, right? And when you're young, you're thinking, oh, that's good, I can use that money. But I knew I needed health insurance. So he reached out, and he actually kind of put the bug in my ear to, you know, like a daddy does, because my dad was in Oklahoma with his wife and her kids, and he tried to help that way, and just said, here, I'm going to have your uncle call you, because my uncle at the time had started a business in the area I was living in, and a big manufacturing company for windows. And so, and you know, he knew a few things, and he had 2 daughters, and like I said, they were older. And yeah, my cousin Pam had the same thing. She had psoriasis. So he gave me some suggestions, and I took it, and that's when I said, okay, I'm going to apply at the grocery store. He said, that is a quick way for you to get health insurance. And he said, it's, you know, you just stick with that job. And he knew a little bit about that, because I guess he did that kind of stuff when he was younger. He was always, my dad said he was always an entrepreneur, but he was a worker. And he knew I was a worker, you know? And so you definitely can't be lazy when you work at the grocery store. I mean, you can get away with some things if you are, but then there's, you know, you see the ones that move up because they're management material, because they're a worker. And basically you're taking up slack for the people that aren't. They're just there just to pull their paycheck. I was there just to pull a paycheck too and get health insurance. So I was like, you know, but then I find, you know, I'm young, married, and I needed that health insurance. So I think I did that before I got married. And yeah. Morning. And then yeah. And that was a great experience. I knew I could always go back and fall back on doing that, but I got my cosmetology license. It was like hit and miss. I would start and then have to pull out for something, life, and then start back. So they would freeze your hours. So I finally got my full cosmetology license, because I was cutting hair and doing the things, doing nails and things like that, which I don't like doing any of that anymore. I don't do any of that anymore. I'm really not. I was good at the pink and white acrylics, but sitting is, I don't know, just wasn't my favorite thing to do. So I knew I wanted to get my license for hair. And I watched a good friend of ours. I shadowed her. I always watched her when she was cutting. I'm a lefty, but it didn't matter. I saw the way she was holding the shears. And she would say, yeah, you just need a lefty pair. And so a friend of mine had her license. She had her manicure license, but she had had access to some lefty shears and had them and said, I can't use these, but here. And she gave them to me. And I remember cutting people's hair and just, they thought I was licensed. Not that I was working in a salon, it wasn't. I was doing it out of the house. But I always had a knack for it. I was always cutting on the animals' hair, cutting my sister's hair, trimming their bangs, styling. I just had a knack for it. My mom, I think, started me on that because her and her girlfriend were always doing each other's hair. And her girlfriend was a licensed cosmetologist. And so my mom was always so good at hair, like braiding. Her dexterity was so good. And she colored and stuff like that. She would trim our hair, trim our bangs and stuff like that. She was pretty good. She was pretty good because we didn't have those, you know how you can look back now on things and you go, oh my gosh, that is a horrid school picture, you know, of maybe your bangs were like, we call it pigs in a blanket, super short and look like you could stick a sausage in them. She did put the rollers, the sponge rollers in her hair to where, oh my gosh, my hair, like my older half sister, she had the straight hair, fine but straight. The middle sister, super straight, like not even a bend, thick. And then my hair was super thick and very wavy. And Mom and her girlfriend would say it was, I had a lot of body in my hair. And I just hated how poofy my hair was, and I always wanted it flat. And then once I went into cosmetology school full time, I finally was able to get on the ROP program. This was in California, Regional Occupational, Program, Regional Occupational Program, ROP, where the state pays for you to go to cosmetology school, just like even nursing. They have nursing on that too now, and I know they've changed it up. Welders, things like that. And when that came around, I went, oh my gosh, I'm gonna do this. It's 40 hours a week. This is after Jim passed away, because I tried, they froze my hours. I did go and applied for, it was the school, it was a school loan through them, and did some hours, maybe 200, 300. And then we couldn't afford childcare while he was not working, and I wasn't working. So I worked at the grocery store at Albertsons for a little bit, but then he couldn't, because he was having seizures. So I couldn't leave the kids with him. And so I had to pull away from that. And then when he passed away, they contacted me, the school did, and said, hey, we have a 40-hour-a-week program, and this is how it goes. And you're only allowed 2 sick days a month, but you've got to go. And you've got to clock in and clock out on these times. It's like being in boot camp. And, okay. And if you miss more than those 2 days a month, I mean, of course, you'd have to have a doctor's note. But if it was just because you just couldn't make it or whatever, you had to pay for that. So they broke it down to daily, what it would cost you daily if you were paying for it. So anyhow, I say that was by the grace of God, because they forgave the little, I think it might have been a $2,500 school loan. They forgave that because it was a hardship. They forgave that because Jim passed away and they knew I just couldn't come. So that, I didn't have to show proof or anything. They just forgave that. So I went off the ROP. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me. And boy, you talk about the school life and stuff. You know, people talk about education, higher education, college and stuff. I'm not boo-hooing that. I believe in higher education for sure. It's not for everybody though. Like some people just their brains are made for that. And so for me, I was like, it was hard for me to take the test. It was hard for me to be away from my babies. And that probably was most of it. I was stressed out leaving them an hour and a half away at the daycare because I was able to get that covered. And all the things. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, you know what? You can do it. And again, through all those things, it's like, back to the psoriasis story, through all those things, it's like this one lady came in to this health food store that I worked at for a little bit. It was in between the under the table job when I was taking the electric payments and the phone payments. I worked for and through my late husband's aunt and uncle, they decided they were going to buy a health food store, and so she worked that full time, and they needed somebody to work there, and they decided they were going to start a little sandwich bar, make smoothies and all the things, and use all the products, the protein powder and all the stuff that they sold, and pay me under the table. And that was before I started working for Vons grocery store. And I don't even know if Vons exists. I don't think it does anymore. Probably, I think it was bought out by Albertsons. But anyhow, so I did that, and then my psoriasis started getting bad, and this lady in there was an herbalist, and there was all kinds of walks of life that came into the health food store, and they were buying all kinds of stuff to make tinctures and all kinds of stuff. I learned a lot. So she was always bringing me in little tinctures and say, honey, put this on your neck, because now the eczema, psoriasis was not behind my ears anymore. It was down like on my neck, and I looked like I had a severe sunburn. And I'm 18 years old at this time, and she asked me my diet, like, tell me what you eat throughout the day, and if you can't remember, starting tonight when you go home, write down what you eat. And I said, okay. And so I did that. And she'd say, okay, now I want you to cut out this, this, and this, all these things that maybe I was eating a lot of. My go-tos were chips and salsa, right? When you're a kid, you know, you just do the easy. It was good. I would shred cheese and put it on there and melt it over the chips, pop it in the microwave, and that was a meal for me. Or corn tortillas. Corn was a big deal. So I cut all that out, cut cheese out. And I'm definitely a meat lover, so I tell her, yeah, I ate like poor man's steak, you know, which was, what was it, round steak, because I'd buy a big slab of it, and then we would cut it and put it in Ziploc bags and stick it in the freezer, and then just take little pieces out, take it out of the freezer just one at a time, and cut it really thin, and then make like a stir fry with veggies and stuff, put it on top of rice, or fast food, you know, get the little shredded chicken burrito from Del Taco, or, you know, tried not to eat too much of that, but, you know, I loved Carl's Jr. burgers, especially the bacon cheeseburger, and fries and that kind of thing. And so she said, I think we need to detox your system, and this is how we're going to do it. And that was back in the day, right? Like, you didn't hear people talk about all this healthy. That's when Jack LaLanne was like a big deal. He was a household name. And so juicing was the thing. And then I didn't have the money for a juicer, but I had access to one at the health food store. So I just drank all those juices. I drank a lot of carrot juice. I was starting to turn orange. And carrot and celery juice. I started feeling better. It didn't go away on my skin. I finally had to go see I went to the urgent care when I met up with my uncle, he paid for it. And then to maintain, that's when he talked me into going to the grocery store to get a good job. And so then I was able to maintain whatever kind of medicine I needed to keep that out of my body, because this lady that was doing the natural stuff, she said, honey, it's just going to make it worse before it makes it better. You got to pull it out of your system. And I went, I can't take it. It's just too itchy. It looks horrible. I was embarrassed wearing turtlenecks in the summertime. It was just, I didn't want to go anywhere. But the sun made it feel good. So I'd lay in a tanning bed or go to the beach. I couldn't put anything perfumey on my skin. So we just figured it out. Urgent Care gave me a steroid cream, and then the little pill that you take. It's like a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing. And then it went away and it never came back. And so there's little things though that I notice if I wear, I'm more of a costume jewelry, like earring wearer. So like hoops, like I'll change out my earrings all the time. Gold plated stuff, turns me green. I don't have anything really gold anymore that I wear. And my wedding ring is white gold and it doesn't bother me, so I can wear silver and all that stuff. But I just started tracking and found that I needed to not completely take dairy away, because I'll have pizza and but I don't eat chunks of cheese by itself anymore. I will shred a little bit. I just use a little bit, not a whole bunch. And if I do a little bit just to have, like, I won't put cheese on my sandwich. I love mozzarella. I love provolone. And I love all the really pricey cheeses, the stuff that you shred. I love that stuff that you eat, make a charcuterie board with and stuff. I love all those things. And I can handle them. You can tell with your system, if you're gassy and things like that, that you've probably had too much stuff for your system. And so I back off. And it's not the staple in my diet anymore. So, and I try to eat, I love sourdough bread. Hi, little bunny. And yeah, so I just learned through that. And then walking. And a long time ago, it's like, how you kind of put that in the very back of your mind. And then now, fast forward 30 years later, however long it was, it's like that doctor for my psoriasis said to me, get out and sweat and drink a lot of water. And sweating helps detox your body. You need to sweat. And so people think it's so gross, and it's like, no, it's not. I mean, you put the deodorant on and you don't get stinky. I tell people when they come to see me, they're going to come and get their head washed, and they're always so apologetic. My head is so dirty, it probably stinks. I haven't washed my hair in a week, and I just went to the gym, or blah, blah, blah. Or I have, whatever it is, right? It's not everybody goes a week without washing their hair. I highly suggest it. I recommend it, because your natural oils are the best. And to brush all your oils through to your hair, that's just the best conditioner. So, but I tell everybody, I'm like, look, it's okay. It doesn't offend me. I'm glad to see that you're taking care of yourself, and that you're sweating, and that you're doing something that's creating sweat and cardio and whatever. So I thought, walking around, walking and stepping intentionally fast in the grocery store, because I did the thing where I was telling my manager, I said, if you want me to put those 4 shopping baskets of go backs, things that people at the register, at the checkout, when you check out, and then you go, I think I'm short. I don't want this chicken, or I got 4 of these. I only need 1, so all the things, right? Bread, all that. A lot of times if it's perishable and chicken and things like it, meats and stuff and dairy, it's going to go back on the shelf right away. But most of the time it's not. And so it's underneath in this little cubby in the check stand. And so then they would put it in, fill up, a shopping cart, or The people that worked in the back of the store, they would fill up shopping carts of stuff. They would find things randomly stuffed. And, as they're restocking the shelves, they would find things that customers late at night would just shove in there before they closed in random places. And so it was a go back. So I would say I would put that back, and I walked around that grocery store so much and I loved it. And I thought, this is good for my feet. It's good for my legs. It's good for everything. So any opportunity I had to do that. And so now that I'm working my head spa business full time, I'm like, now I have time to get back out and power walk. I call it life walking. What's the matter, little bunny? He stood there for a little bit. I almost got to walk right up to him. But now I can do this and then I'm ready, mentally focused for the rest of my day. And if that means I probably did a mile right now, maybe a little over. I think maybe 3/4 of a mile there and then 3/4 back. So that's okay. I would have went further. It probably would have been a 3-mile round trip if I was able to go the way where I saw those dogs. But a little bit at a time. I'm going to try to remedy the issue at hand with those dogs. I'm just going to, like I said, I'm going to have to go on Amazon and see if they sell those little small livestock electric prods, and see if I would be able to get my hands on one of them so I can, go the places I want to go when I'm out walking. And that's how I stay mentally focused, y'all. Lots of talky. I love that everybody jumps on here. I love hearing you guys' little bits of your story. I love it when people reach out to me, they email me. You can email me. My email is on my Facebook if you want to. If you want to chat. I joined a walking group, and it's called, I think it's called Walking for Health. And it's all over. And it's not just one little area. It's for everybody to hop on, and you can share your stuff. But I love people to see where I'm at. I like to talk and walk and chat, keep my live on. People come on all the time on my lives and say stuff, and I love that. And they share, and they'll be like, I'm out walking with you, and I love that. And I thought, if we could somehow figure out a way to where, in this little community where I'm at, I keep going, okay, I think I'm going to start like a little walking group where we can get together in our little community. And yeah, rain or shine. I mean, if that means we bring an umbrella, we just go and meet somewhere different. People would meet me, they would come to my house, or they would come to my little shop that I had, and we would just leave from there. And some people are like, hey, I'm gonna walk with my coffee. And I'm like, that's absolutely. So I called it a coffee walk. So there's times when, I'll be coffee walking, and or have my water or whatever your drink is that you have in the morning, tea, whatever, and then graduate. So what I'm gonna do is, I have a gal that's coming, and she's gonna bring me, she's one of the coffee girls. We have some cute little coffee places here, little choices in our little town. And so she's going to bring me she said, can I bring you anything? And I said, yeah, bring me an energy drink and just surprise me. So it's probably a Lotus or something. And so I'm excited about that, because I've had my coffee, and you guys, I'm into mushroom coffee. I add I think it's a tablespoon. It comes with the coffee. It's a tablespoon deal. I got it when I ordered Rise mushroom coffee, which is instant, and you can have it by itself in water, I think 8 ounces or more. But I go between Rise and Rise. You have to do a membership or whatever. They wouldn't let you I think just for the good price, you have to do that. And I think I did do that, but I had to cancel my subscription, because I'm like, I don't really care for it. So I still have some, I'm gonna use it, but it doesn't have the flavor that MaxFit has. The MaxFit Energy Mushroom Coffee, I love that stuff. So I'm not affiliated. I don't get anything special for mentioning that to you. I'm just mentioning it to you guys, but it's anything that can help, you know. At the age 58, it's like I could use a little extra, you know. So that helps. And then just energy wise, like this gets my blood going. This helps me, you know, I feel better. My muscles feel good. If you got fibromyalgia, which I definitely have, it definitely helps that. And then taking an Epsom salt bath, you know. So I'm gonna go in and rinse off in the shower and get ready and for my day. And it was so good to see y'all. And until next time, I might see you tomorrow. Well, maybe not tomorrow because I do have an 8 a.m. So I will probably see you, if not Sunday, I'll probably see you Monday. Until then, peace out.